Welcome everyone to this reading from our latest issue of Yellow Arrow Journal on the theme Elevate. I'm Annie with Yellow Arrow Publishing. I'm the executive director. Jennifer and Shannon is going to lead the show tonight. She was the guest editor of this issue. So before we jump in, just for those of you who may not know much about Yellow Arrow Publishing, we are a small independent press headquartered in Baltimore, Maryland. We support and empower women identifying writers in Baltimore and beyond. So really from around the world, this group here is very representative of folks from all over the United States, I believe. So we're so happy to have you all, and I'm really excited to hear you read your words yourselves. It's so lovely to see the issue in print. I have it right here. Hopefully you all have your copies, and I will drop a link in the chat for anyone who doesn't have one, who would like to purchase one. So Yellow Arrow Publishing publishes Yellow Arrow Journal twice a year since 2017. So we've been doing this for some time, and I think it's officially great to say we survived the pandemic and got through that, which a lot of small presses weren't able to. So that was really tough time to kind of go through and see in the literary world. But we are going strong and super thrilled to have you all publish your work with us. We also publish chapbooks, and just a little plug that we have our submissions open for our chapbooks that will be published in 2025. So if any of you have a collection you're working on, please send it our way by the end of the month. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Jennifer with a huge thank you to Jennifer for being our guest editor on this issue. It's absolutely gorgeous, and we are so thrilled. And our guest editors put so much work in behind the scenes. It's an incredible lift that they're doing in addition to everything else going on in their lives. So we're just incredibly grateful to Jennifer for what a beautiful collection she's put together.
Thank you, Annie. Hi, everybody. My name is Jennifer, and of course, I'm the guest editor for this issue of Yellow Arrow Journal's spring 2024 issue, and it's called Elevate. And you know what, when Kapua sent the email saying, hey, will you do this? And Kapua is the editor-in-chief of Yellow Arrow Journal. I said yes before I had a chance to really think about it and change my mind and decline for fear of whatever. And so once the theme of Elevate was confirmed, I knew that this kind of assignment was going to do something to change me. And of course, it did. And so elevate means raise or lift something to a higher position. And I share that because I want you to consider that definition as you listen to the stories from these fabulous women identifying writers who are here to read. And we have people who weren't able to join us tonight. We have a couple who did send in videos, but really some of these pieces will leave you physically elevated, and others will elevate your mind and your hearts. For me, this entire collection tells stories of getting up when you're being pushed down, smiling through pain, living in the moment, overcoming, climbing, listening, hoping, flying. And not only that, when you look at the cover, and this is my cover, a lot of flags and different things in this book, but this cover also is really about seeing yourselves, seeing your grandmothers, your mothers, your sisters, your colleagues, your friends, and any woman who has really overcome and elevated in life and dealt with anything in life. And I think if you're here, then you probably have. So my hope is really that you're inspired by these readers, by this edition or this issue from Yellow Arrow Journal, that you'll be inspired to push forward, to pursue your passion, to love harder, to be open like I was to accepting this task. And trust me, it is a big one. And behind the scenes, you just don't know how much work and effort goes into putting an issue together. And the women who are behind the scenes at Yellow Arrow do an excellent job. But, I want you to just be able to go with whatever is coming at you in life. This is what this issue really showed me and helped me to be inspired to want to write more honestly and be more forthright in my own creative life. Also, really looking at elevation and not necessarily elevating me, but elevating others. And that's been the true elevation, I think, for me in my work. So I'm not going to bore you any longer. I'm going to keep it moving and get us started. And we're going to mainly go in order of the book, but our first reader may have to jump off a little early. So we would like to give her the chance to read her work first. And that is Bridget Hayes. I'm going to go through a bio, and then we're going to move forward and have our reader and our contributor share their work. Bridget Hayes lives in Sonoma County, California with her wife and 2 orange cats. Her work is forthcoming in Genosco Literary Journal, Wild Roof Journal, and the Letters Home Collection. She has won 1st place, 2nd place, and 4th place ribbons for her poetry at the Sonoma County Fair. She is a member of the International Women's Writing Guild and the Redwood Writers Club. Bridget.
This is called The Stretch of the Call. Asalatu Khairum Minanom. I looked up expecting to see modern speakers on the minaret vibrate with a fuzzy crackle. Instead, I saw the profile of a man on a balcony, a muezzin, reciting the call to prayer against the pinks and blues of a sound-soaked Tunisian desert sky, promising the break of day. From this opening, the muezzin's voice of the old way broke free. Rhythmic in its incantation of animated language, the life behind the words transformed the instant into a rite of being human. In the developing dawn, there was a passion in his song as he lifted the words from his lower abdomen, spiraled them around his torso, wove them through his lungs, rocketed them up his throat, and set their vibrations free into the crisp, clear air. With no hint that he repeated this ritual every day, 5 times a day, as weeks, months, and years passed by, the melody from this human was fresh and full of life. His call was his prayer as he woke the village, reminding them that prayer was better than sleep. 5 bells of mindfulness for the Buddhists, 5 rings of the clock tower for the secular, and even the alarm of a clock for the atheists, not on the hour, not keeping time, but calibrated with the changing light. The first time I heard it, I was startled by the sounds mingling with my dreams, echoing, swaying, bouncing from one tower to the next, across the dim lit valleys of this sleepy little town. I awoke just in time to see the sky vibrate the sun into existence. A silver metallic flash in the sky, moving like a minute hand. Its particles changed from indigo to plum purple, exploding into splotches and streams of vibrant, fiery threads. Red sky in the morning. It was a warning to awaken or miss the restoration to life. On the edge of the Sahara, in the ancient village of Matmata, I watched as people scrambled from their quiet places to the orange earth street, to the mosque, to somewhere in between. Under the expansive dome of cloudless azure skies, I observed their dedication to the practice of presence. Without trying to understand the stopping of time, the marking of the now, the awakening into all that there is and ever was, the call seeped deeply into my ears. Over time, I learned to let the words rush through me from head to toe. I learned to slow my footsteps to a standstill. I learned to lift my head to the skies and simply stop. Just for a minute, I would listen, look, and breathe. I learned that the moment the words didn't make me think, didn't need me to think, but slowed me, soothed me. 5 times a day, the rhythm of the prayer made me be present. The careful drum of Arabic syllables, of which I only knew a few words. The voice of a human slinging song with guttural utterances. The stretch of the call across all spaces that humans touched, not forgetting a corner, crack, or closet. This beautiful chant, in alignment with the ever-changing cycles of the moon, filled up the sky and lit up my eyes.
Thank you. Thank you, Bridget. I enjoyed this so much because it reads like it's like it sounds like you were there. Like we can all be there in somehow on this page with you. And I just love the language just around sounds mingling with my dreams, echo, swaying, bouncing. Like, it's just some beautiful language that you used here. And we so appreciated being able to see your journey and just listen to this call through your words. So thank you. Our next reader is Michele Evans. Michele is a fifth generation Washingtonian, DC, that is a writer, high school English teacher, and advisor for her school's literary magazine, Unbound. Despite always wearing the color Black, she exhibits a certain fondness for blueberries, blue hydrangeas, blues musicians, and Blue Mountain coffee. This 2023 Pushcart Prize nominee and winner of the ASP Bulletin Poetry Contest has been published in Artemis, Maryland Literary Review, Sky Island Journal, The Right Launch, and elsewhere. Pearl, her debut collection of poetry, is forthcoming from Finishing Line Press in 2025. You can find her at awordsmithy.com or on Instagram at awordsmithy. I am going to introduce now and present Michele.
Thank you. Good evening. Before I begin, though, I want to just take a moment to say thank you to the entire Yellow Arrow family for welcoming me and for giving my poem, Malia, such a beautiful home. I'm honored tonight to be included with so many talented creatives. My poem, Malia, is about resilience. And I wrote it for anyone battling insurmountable obstacles, those difficult challenges and circumstances in life that can overwhelm you and take you completely off course. And the message in the poem is find your inner strength and never give up. Malia, I was hopeless, running away from home and him and hurt, when a lush, overgrown island of lotus blossoms welcomed me. To a new dawn, after the 9th day, the gods finally showered favor, and I washed ashore, rescued by natives who would rehab me. Far beyond the waves, my addiction took residence with other diseased until doctors prescribed me. Daily sunray shots, eventually fading the rope bracelets I wore where he once tattooed me. With swallowed pills and rainwater, I washed down murky memories from pasts that punched me. Hardest during night silences when all patients became prisoners to tremors that reminded me of being enclosed, tied up, homebound, in a darkened pod exposed only to brief flickers of sky where he fed me. Platefuls of side effects, windowless yellowed eyes, slowed heartbeats, numbed limbs supporting a weakened me. On my knees, hands clasped, shedding grief's residue, an all-you-can-eat buffet of worry, now behind me. So I rebelled and rebloomed, rose to the surface, floating, feeling both resurrected and rapturous. My petals showy, reviving and thriving in rich loam. I, thick-stemmed, honey-skinned, at last hopeful, learned how to forgive me. Thank you.
Thank you, Michele. That was powerful. And I think what this piece did for me and what I really loved about it and enjoyed is that it goes on this journey and you go from hurt to healing to forgiveness all in one piece. But you started with hope, which is really, really unique. And it starts just in that first stanza, lotus blossoms welcomed me. So there's a sense of hope already. And so that really, really touched me and made me really happy too. So we're going to keep going, and thank you again, Michelle. And we're going to move to Sara Palmer. So Sara is a retired psychologist and the author of 4 nonfiction books published in Johns Hopkins Press Health Book Series. Since retirement, she has written poetry and short prose pieces. Her work has appeared in Yellow Arrow Journal, Pen in Hand, The Euphrastic Review, and Persimmon Tree, and in 2 multi-author collections, Fractured Hearts, Multi-Faith Words of Hope and Healing, and Poetry is Life, Writing with Yellow Arrow. She lives in Baltimore, Maryland. Sara.
Thanks, Jennifer, and it's really a pleasure to be here with everyone. In the interest of time, I'm going to read just the second half of my piece so I can stick to my 3 minutes. My piece is called Rising to the Occasion, and it has a first part and a second part. The second part is called Winter 2024, Stepping It Up. On January 1st, the day after my 68th birthday, my older son and I went hiking in the mountains near Los Angeles. He didn't tell me how many miles we'd walk, how long it would take, or how hard it would be, and I didn't ask. Your reward for making it to the top, he tells me as we leave the car at the trailhead, will be me revealing the total elevation. Game on. We set out late in the day, the afternoon light already fading. The trail is not exceptionally steep, but climbs steadily uphill. I feel my heart rate increasing, my leg muscles whining. At each turn of the road, I wonder if we should quit and head back down. But a brand new 68th birthday voice in my head is telling me, step it up while you still can. I listen and keep climbing. When we reach the top, the sun is dipping low behind the city, and a golden swath of light shimmers on the Pacific Ocean, far in the distance. I feel exhilarated, brave, energized. I am awestruck by the vista before me, but equally by my own powers of healing after the full-stop terror of a heart attack 3 years ago. Untold hours of pushing myself to the max in cardiac rehab and later in the gym have paid off, and here I am, hiking up a mountain. I'm happy to be alive, to embrace the future with its risks, surprises, and possibilities for joy. The way down is fast and easy. The sun has set and it's cold. I put my hands in my pockets while my son lights the road ahead with his cell phone flashlight. We are both elated with a case of Runner's High, and the lights twinkling on in the valley below look super bright and trippy. When we reach the residential neighborhood at the foot of the trail, multicolored Christmas lights are on in front of many houses. Don't you just love those lights, my son says, grinning like a kid. He doesn't say he's proud of me or amazed that I made it. I'm the one who can't resist stating the obvious. Pretty good for an old lady, huh? Clearly, he trusts in my powers. I've mothered him, after all. He knew I could do it. Still, the next day, he checks in with me. So, Mom, how are you feeling today after that hike? Surprisingly, I feel great, and I tell him so. Glad to hear it, he says, because my legs kind of hurt. Elevation revealed, 1,600 feet. Thank you.
So this piece is really nice, and because I know Sara, I think it also resonated with me as well. But I so love the dialogue that you put in here, and along with just the entire message, you're definitely physically elevating here, but in different ways. But the dialogue just does something to add to the depth to it. In the beginning, what you guys didn't hear, it's easy is a part of the dialogue that's in this piece, and or failure is impossible, a quote from Susan B. Anthony. And it's just the way you kind of intertwined it with all of these facts and all of these things just really made it so enjoyable for me.
Thank you.
Our next reader is Mary Moreno. Mary is both a musician and a writer. Her career bridges both worlds, each inspiring the other, and her work includes fiction, nonfiction, poetry, songs, and contemporary chamber music ensembles, as well as electronic music. She has been recognized by the New York Foundation for the Arts, National League of American Pen Women, and the Elaine Kaufman Table 4 Foundation, and her work has been published by Skyhorse, Level Best Books, and Oberon Poetry Journal. Mary.
Thank you, Jennifer. I wrote this poem, Web Surfing, when I first saw the first images from NASA's James Webb Telescope. And I'm sure you've all seen them. This is just one of them. And I was so struck and moved, and it truly elevated me and my take on life. So here's the poem. Back before there was a breath, beyond the boundaries of time, sits this glimpse of a beginning, awash in a sea of starlight and vast splashes of color, denser than Van Gogh's dreams. The cosmos shift and shaped and sang us into being. Born of stars we are, birthed by the light of eternity. And that's my take on who we are and where we came from.
All right, yes, right. Yeah, this poem is so concise, is very short, but it is so full of imagery, and it allows us to imagine and see this glimpse of a beginning. That's perfect. And the splashes of color, cosmos shifted and shaped and sang us into being. I just think just beautiful language and such tightness, and I love that about this piece. So thank you.
Thank you.
Our next contributor and next reader is Daisy Bassen. Daisy is a poet and community child psychiatrist who graduated from Princeton University's creative writing program and completed her medical training at the University of Rochester and Brown University. Her work has been published in Salamander, McSweeney's, Smartish Pace, Plume, and Pank, among other journals. She was the winner of the Soul to Speak 2019 Poetry Contest, the 2019 ILDS White Mice Contest, the 2020 Beulah Rose Poetry Prize, and the 2020 Erskine J. Poetry Prize. She lives in Rhode Island with her family. Her fiction is represented by Jennifer Lyons of Jennifer Lyons Agency.
Thank you for letting me join tonight. I'm happy to be in such a wonderful room. Rooms all across America, it sounds like. And so I'm going to share a poem with you that I wrote about 2 years ago when we were still waiting for the Dobbs decision. So it's particularly resonant now, I think, for a number of reasons. So this poem is called Thank You to the Woman Leaning Out Her Window and Drumming as We Marched for Roe in 2022. You made me look around and then up. There I saw you through the iron lacework of the maple's first leaves, like Morella's two women at the window, and you both, the younger one watching, the older holding back the shutter, obscured, taking in the livid world at a necessary distance, and you beat the drum hard, in time with the chant we answered. We tried to find a rhythm using our own hearts, halting until we heard you, and then we shouted now, and power and freedom. You reminded me there can be a visceral joy in striking skin. There can be a dark-eyed woman above in a window with her drum when you are only looking ahead trying to be loud. You can be given what you need.
All right, that was great, Daisy. First of all, I love titles. I'm poor at writing a great title, and this title, Thank You to the Woman Leaning Out of Her Window and Drumming as We March for Roe in 2022, it does so much work already. It introduces us it's almost a stanza by itself, but it's so powerful. And I just love that you decided to make that your title. And also, I think there are just some words in here and just some phrases that give us the power that you're talking about. I love the visceral joy and the striking skin. Those phrases just make this piece feel very powerful. And so thank you for submitting it. Our next reader is Robin Dellabough. She is a poet and writer with a master's from the University of California, Berkeley Journalism School. Double Helix 2022 is her debut collection and includes a Pushcart Prize nominated poem. Recent poems have appeared or are forthcoming in Rattle, Gyroscope, Yellow Arrow Journal, Stone Boat, Halfway Down the Stairs, Mom Egg Review, Blue Unicorn, Negative Capability, and other publications and anthologies. Robin.
Hi, everyone. This poem is about seeing my granddaughter, catching my granddaughter in a very joyous moment, despite some family issues. And it lifted my spirits so much. That's part of the elevation. The other part of the elevate theme is it was the first time I've ever published a poem without any punctuation whatsoever. So that was a big risk for me. And I know you can't see the poem on the page at a reading, but for me that was a big deal. And I felt like my writing was elevated by making that leap. So the poem is called Tap Dancing in Stop and Shop. My son's daughter spends the weekend. We have to stock up on gluten-free, dairy-free, soy-free food. She's 8, already knows which brand of bread or pasta or oat milk she likes best. She feeds her heavy mama and herself, so she's fine with no hugs and okay with her father disappearing for years. She thinks he's in a hospital getting better, but there's no cure for his brand of demons. She skips down the aisles filled with bright boxes of cookies, crackers she can't eat, uncomplaining. In the middle of the store, her tight brown coils bounce as she shows me a tap dance routine. I can't stop beaming. She's learned this one thing she didn't have to learn. Thank you.
Thank you. The formatting of your piece without any punctuation has given me some freedoms that I want to explore. So thank you. And again, this is one of those pieces that you say so much in a really tight space, because it's like 7 stanzas, but it's really a lot of content, and there's some sadness. She feeds her heavy mama, fine with no hugs and okay with her father disappearing for years. But that end is really just something of joy and power that when I look at it, I can't stop beaming, because you bring this level of hope to this young life and to you and everybody. So it's just I enjoyed this piece a lot.
Thank you so much.
I was remiss because I was supposed to play one of our videos now, so I am going to kind of do a step back. If you're following along in the book, just bear with me for 1 minute. We're going to go to Bethany Tap, and her poem this is a poem about birth trauma. I will read her bio, and then I will share my screen, and we'll listen to this video. So Bethany Tap received her MFA in creative writing from the University of North Carolina at Wilmington. Her work has recently been published or is forthcoming in Flash Fiction magazine, Ballast, the MacGuffin, Emerge Literary Journal, Thimble Literary Magazine, the Hyacinth Review, Flash Frontier, and Cosmic Daffodil Journal, among others. She lives in Grand Rapids, Michigan with her wife and 4 kids.
Or live here asynchronously. My name is Bethany Tap, and I live in Grand Rapids, Michigan. I will be reading today from my piece. This is a poem about birth. It is talking about a thing without talking about it. It is circling the edges of a widening gyre, moving against the wind, ripping facts apart, and scattering truth like you blow seeds off a dandelion stem, then closing your eyes and wishing for the pieces to spin back together, to form a new picture or perspective, to morph the past into something palatable, something you can look at without retching, without hating yourself, without guilt. Guilt is the reason you laugh off the word trauma. Trauma implies bad things, but you're fine, remember? And baby is fine, fine. Everyone is fine, remember? It is easier to forget than to talk about it. Don't talk about it. It is easier to write a poem or a story about the thing that happened to someone else, not you, not yours. It wasn't you who failed. It wasn't you who couldn't do it. It wasn't your slides unfit uterus. I can rewrite this, repaint this, reframe this so that it's not me. It was never me. This is not my story, my poem. This is someone else's. I'm just. Thank you.
All right, that was a powerful piece, and being that I'm a new mother, almost 3-year-old, it touched me. And I think birth trauma is something that may be starting to be more of a conversation now, especially in the Black community. I know those statistics are very alarming, but I think sometimes we don't really think about giving birth in all of the ways that it can happen and what can happen to mother and or child. So this poem definitely touched me. Also, the formatting, you have to see this piece in the book. It is really how she formatted it is beautiful, and just the words, when you look at hating yourself without guilt. Trauma implies bad things, but you're fine. So really this, for me, was certainly about elevating a conversation and just looking at something that we don't often look at, and elevating it and elevating people who are going through something similar. The next piece is also a video, and it's by Sara Piper, and she is a writer and physician living in the San Francisco Bay Area. Words are a favorite medicine, and she writes to map the contours of health and illness, to nourish small delights, to push out on tight walls, and to log life lessons from insects in the garden. Her previous work can be read in the Kindling issue of Yellow Arrow Journal and on her website for invisible illness advocacy at hopetripping.com.
Hello, everyone. I'm I'm very glad to be part of this tonight. My name is Sara. I'm recording this from Berkeley, California. And the poem that I'll be reading tonight is called Small. And I wrote it about a time in my life when I was facing some rugged health challenges that had changed my experience of living in profound ways. And I struggled to find meaning and purpose in the smallness of my life and the struggles. And it took learning to settle into that smallness, to begin to see the marvels of it, to find a solace in it, and even some days a joy in it. And so this is my poem, Small. I fell sick first, and then illness made me small and shed notes from my voice and ate up my cells like puny chickens. And nothing came in the mail for years, and no task needed doing, except all of living. Just keep living. I unplugged my television and gave away all my clothes and taped photos to the insides of windows until the earth drank up the winter sky and I could open them wide and fresh to hear the birds scratch and shuffle the ground for food. I learned to wait in the line of life. And I remembered how easy it is to learn small, when every scouting ant is that teacher with a raised eyebrow, waiting on me to ease into a world still too new and too big for knowing. Each day its own line through the tall grass. So I stopped pretending to know at all, anything, except that love is not silly and can be slathered on a day like peanut butter. And silly isn't silly, and no small thing is ever small. Even sitting like a dot on the edge of a gently rotating day could almost put me in the sky. Thank you.
All right. This one is so honest, and it's so much here. And some of the lines that I call out are just ones that I noticed, but I know there are so many more. But shed notes from my voice, just keep living. Earth drank up the winter sky. It's just some beautiful language and beautiful lines here. And of course, slathered, love is not silly, and slathered on a day like peanut butter. And that last line, even sitting like a dot on the edge of a gently rotating day, could almost put me in the sky. And I think that was a beautiful ending to this piece. So thank you to our readers who sent in videos. And I know there are so many readers that couldn't be here tonight, but I just, I'm so grateful that you guys are here and that we have some representation from those who couldn't be here as well. So our next reader is Morgan Sheehan. She is an educator, writer, and a Brazilian jiu-jitsu. I'm sorry, Morgan. I'm struggling here. Jiu-jitsu competitor. She lives in Western Massachusetts with her fabulous family and small flock of pecan ducks. She loves words, gardening, and sparring with friends in the gym.
Thank you. It's so wonderful to hear everyone's voices together. I perhaps foolishly am only sharing the beginning of my piece, so it's pre-elevation, and it's on the mats. The first gym I walked into was South Deerfield, 7 miles from my house in Western Massachusetts. I hadn't gotten a recommendation so much as told it was there. Krav Maga, developed for the Israeli Defense Force. The internet told me this was real self-defense. I had no experience with martial arts, real or otherwise. The gym was small, once a narrow shop. Benches faced a slightly raised platform. A tall, fit young man was coaching a one-on-one session with an older man. This was about fear. Would he be able to protect himself? What if they tried to take his wallet? What if they had a knife, a gun? The scenarios played out behind the older man's eyes, making his feet heavy and his hands slow. Ever so carefully, the instructor attacked with a bright blue plastic knife. All I could think was, who is going to knife him in South Deerfield, population 2,000? You're more likely to be hit with an errant potato. The private session ended with a flurry of questions from the older man and repeated reassurance from the coach that they would go over more the next time. The older man walked out, shoulders hunched. The young coach disappeared into the back and the regulars entered the gym for class. That's why I was there. My heart rate picked up a notch. The gym owners, 2 men in their 40s, a little older than me, had just returned from a Krav Maga seminar. Their excitement filled the narrow space. They had learned so much, had so much to share. This was all stuff that worked on the street. They said that a lot, especially when holding the bright blue plastic knife. There were 6 men, 2 younger and 4 middle-aged, and 2 women, 1 young and 1 my age, both small and bird-like. "You're the trial?" one of the gym owners asked. Sometimes over email people think I'm a man. My name could go either way. The other looked at me and corrected. "She's here to observe the class," downgrading me on sight. I'd signed up for a trial, but already knew I wasn't going to join. Nobody in this gym was going to give me what I wanted, which was, perhaps absurdly, what it felt like to fight. "We get a lot of people like you." "Oh?" I replied. "A lot of writers looking for information about full contact combat sports because of a story?" I didn't say that. He brought his voice down to give the impression of privacy in the tiny room. "A lot of essay victims come here. Don't worry, you won't have to be afraid anymore," he said with a nod. "Not after this." Victims was the word that stood out to me. I had to roll essay over in my mind for a second. Everyone was staring. They thought that I'd been assaulted, that I was afraid.
Thank you. Thank you, Morgan. I know that's not the entire piece. There's so much more to on the mats in this beautiful story, piece of creative nonfiction. And I thought that your pieces of humor in here were really delightful as we started to read it. But I also thought that you took a special care with talking about SA or sexual assault. And it wasn't anything that was overpowering in this piece. That's not what it was about. But it's just that it was in there. And it wasn't, it was something that, of course, was done with care. But you did definitely elevate us by the end. And we were so excited, at least I was, to get to the Juzit. Okay, can you pronounce it for me? Because I'm so upset right now because I know how to pronounce this.
It's Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Okay, I'm not going to say it anymore, but thank you so much for correcting me. And this is just nerves. That's why I can't pronounce it. We'll just go with that for now. But again, thank you so much for that wonderful piece. Our next reader is Jennifer Martinelli, Eyre. She graduated with her MFA in writing from the Vermont College of Fine Arts in January of 2023. She spent her time at VCFA studying writing for children and young adults, but remains drawn to various genres, particularly free verse poetry. When Jennifer is not writing, you can usually find her behind a desk at her full-time job or reading one of the many books piled on her nightstand. Jennifer has resided in Maryland her entire life. She currently lives in Forest Hill with her husband, daughter, and honorary cat who enjoys walking across keyboards. Jennifer.
Thank you so much. The piece I'm about to read was born from my own curiosity about beauty and how our standards of beauty are influenced and defined by those who raise us. If Barbie were my daughter, I'd take her out to lunch, somewhere nice. We wouldn't need cloth napkins and dress codes. Tabletop vases with sunflowers would do just fine. We'd tuck into a corner booth, plucking our afternoon and cheese fries away, like wildflower petals. We'd be weightless and full. We'd sip soda from thick plastic cups, letting the fizz tickle the tips of our bumpy noses. Each bump a reminder of the knots of our journey. The years of jagged hills, the leveled valleys that brought us to our lowest, our highest. Brought us to this booth, unsliced. Our hair would be swept up in buns and ponytails, undone, but done. Silver roots would catch the sunlight, peeking through restaurant lines. We let our hair grow and grow, because it's our roots that tell us who we are, who we've been. We'd shovel spoonfuls of chocolate mousse into our unpainted mouths, savoring the sweetness of the words that we share. Feeding one another the permission, the sweet courage to be who we are, who we are, who we are. Bellies and souls full, I'd pay our check and hug her goodbye, squeezing her until I feel the beat of her heart pump in sync with mine. Before we part ways, I tell her I'll see her tomorrow. Same place, same time, same booth. Because if Barbie were my daughter, lunch with her would forever be my treat. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Jennifer. And it was something about, just this idea of Barbie, and Barbie has been around for over 50 years. And I remember having a Barbie. And so I enjoyed so much about the balance of playfulness and really a look at the themes that you were just talking about and beauty. And I just, there were so many pieces and so many phrases in here that I can point out, but, we took into a corner booth like wildflower petals. We'd be weightless and full, undone, but done. Our unpainted mouths. I mean, it's just so much about beauty in there. But again, you've brought in this figure that most people know or grew up with. And so thank you so much for sharing that and writing that piece from that perspective. Our next reader is Janicke. Jean is a blind economist, coach, dancer, and writer. She lives in Washington, D.C., and enjoys getting out of the city to the mountains of Central Virginia. Her work has appeared in Mocking Heart Review, Rabbit, and Creation.
Thank you, Jennifer, and thank you to the other readers tonight. It's so lovely to hear your voices. A little bit about this poem. It's talking about the background and the sort of rituals and superstitions leading up to a belly dance show. And it's called The Curious Customs of the Dancers of DC. All this to make a flower out of ostrich feathers. A 10-year-old tube of Viva Glam lipstick with the angled tip point worn from a sharp edge to a thumbnail. Advertised as an outspoken red so that it can reach the smiles in the back of the audience. Each piece of the costume laid out the night before, like a nomad's blanket rolled out at the souk. Paint patterns mimic silver stitched into cloth. Sequins wink up high slits and drip down hips. Fuchsia silk unfurls from a sealed plastic cocoon. Drink a gallon of water, sing your grandmother's gospel, bear the weight of your skirts before we hold hands in the dark wings. Fellow dancers, lead Twiggy and I to the marks we cannot see in the blackout. And a child in the audience stage whispers, "It's time for the big finale." Thank you.
Thank you, Jean. Again, I feel like this is another one where the title does a lot of work. It just automatically puts you in the place that you need to be. Curious Customs of the Dancers of DC. And it just, again, gives us so much context. But the 10-year-old tube of Viva Glam lipstick and outspoken red, so smiles reach the back row, and paint patterns mimic silver stitched in scarves. So much color, fuchsia silk flutters. There's some alliterations in there and just some nice word choices. And I just love the ending. A child in the audience whispers, "It's time for the big finale." And it all comes together so nicely. So thank you, Jean. Melanie Weldon-Soiset is our next poet, and her poetry lives in Sunlight Press, Claire's Story, and others. A 2022 Washington Writers Publishing House contest winner, Melanie is a hashtag Church to Survivor, contemplative prayer leader, and poetry editor at G's Magazine. Melanie is also a highly sensitive person who struggles with insomnia, yet values insights gained through dreaming. She enjoys a brown thrasher bird song before dawn. Melanie is from Georgia, land of the Muskogee and Cherokee, and she currently lives in Washington, D.C. on Nantucket territory. Please correct that when you get a chance, Melanie. I looked it up and still found a way to mess that up. Find Melanie in real life biking on local greenways. Find her online, including her poetry and prayer missive, at MelanieWeldonSoiset.com or on Instagram at MelodyWellSoy.
Thank you so much. Yes, thank you to Annie and to Jennifer and to the other Yellow Arrow contributors for this opportunity to be here tonight. I'm just honored for the chance for my poem to live in this Elevate issue. It's a lot of gorgeous writing. So I'll read my poem Lullaby as Lament first, and then offer a little bit of explanation about the form and how it contributes to the poem. But first, this is Lullaby as Lament. I sing of loss. I sing of weeds and pests. I sing of night. I sing of day, the night, the same. I sing of the wet dog right before he shimmies. I sing of the sled tilting on the crest of the hill. Mercy, do moths eat their own linen wings? I sing of dandelion fluff, acrobatics. I sing loss, sing weeds, night, day, then the wet dog shimmies. I tilt on the crest. Mercy, moths eat, dandelion fluff, acrobatics. I sing, I sing, I sing. So, during the horrors of 2020, as was mentioned in my bio, I struggled with insomnia and, of course, was even worse that year. So I started writing lullabies, honestly, to soothe myself, but also did a little research on the role of lullabies in time and culture, and discovered it's really common for lullabies to be a place to name pain and heartache and loss. And so taking that idea was what inspired this poem, Lullaby as Lament. So Lullaby of Lament is written in 3 sections, but each section is actually the same, but each time there's an erasure, even a loss of language. Each section becomes smaller as words are erased, and yet in the erasing is new possibilities and connections are made. So I found even just the hope in even having the loss, which of course is a theme of lament and lullaby. But I'm so grateful to be here tonight. Thank you again. I'll put my contact information in the chat. I'd love to connect with anyone on this call tonight.
Thank you, Melanie. And of course, yeah, it was so impressive, just the way you used your words. You erased words, of course, as you just said. But I sing of night, I sing of the wet dog right before he shimmies, and this the way you transform that into then the wet dog shimmies. Just below that, you have to read it and look at the formatting of it, but it's really beautifully done. And of course, I love the ending. I sing, I sing, I sing. Our final reader for tonight, but certainly not least, is Anne Will. Anne is the author of Life Cycle of a Beautiful Woman from Yellow Arrow Publishing and Blue Dog Road Trip, Gnashing Teeth Publishing 2024. Her poetry has been nominated for the Pushcart Prize and Best of the Net and appears in Pedestal Magazine, DMQ Review, Model and House, 3 Elements Review, OK Donkey, Swim Every Day, The Shore, and elsewhere. She earned her doctorate at the University of Michigan and lives in Ann Arbor, Michigan, and Key West, Florida. Anne, I know Anne was having some issues, but I will look for Anne. Okay, Anne may not be available. I know she was having some internet issues. And so I will read this for Anne. So you won't get to hear her voice, but you'll get to hear mine. Your daddy comes back as a monarch. Some days there is so much noise, I about lose my mind. Only the soil is mute. There I bury my hands deep in the loam, raising up bush beans and heirlooms, like I raised you kids so long ago. On my knees I lift the weeds, shed my worldly vows to men. I like to imagine your father as a winged creature in the next life, unburdened by human struggle. We could be lighter together. Dusk arrives in its lilac robes, but I am here for the dirt. I promise myself to this patch of dirt, to its kale, cucumbers, and marigolds, to love, honor, cherish as long as we shall live. And when it is my turn to die, scatter me in the milkweed bed, so I may once more see your father. So again, another one, all of these pieces are really, really like great writing, great pieces of work, but I just love this so much because she goes from so many different emotions, and she's moving from the noise to the soil to her husband, to your daddy, and who she's talking to in this piece. But I love the language. Dusk arrives in its lilac robes. I promise myself to this patch of dirt. And what I also learned is that it taught me something about the monarch butterfly, and that there is this need to support this butterfly so that they are not extinct. And so I did not know that before this poem, and I so appreciate her for educating me and also getting me to look into this a little more. So thank you again. And I want to thank all of our readers, and again, all of those who couldn't be here, but everyone who contributed to this issue, Elevate. It really was a pleasure to be a part of, and I enjoyed every moment of it. I enjoyed learning from all of you, everyone on this call. You have done so much to help my own writing, and I appreciate that. I appreciate your willingness to share your hearts and souls, and even submit, because that's half the battle right there. And so many times we don't even do that. So thank you. Annie, I don't know if you're available, if you have anything else you want to say, because I want to make sure that you get a chance to kind of bring this to a close.
Well, thanks, Jennifer, and thank all of you so much for these beautiful readings. It really is so lovely to hear all of you read your words and your voices, and we'll have this available as a recording soon.
Right. Bye-bye.